Can you hear me? Great. I'm doing this in English. Let's give some French work for the translators as well. So this is a study that we did at Logitech that looks into how we can help people get started with using a VR keyboard that we are developing. So maybe first a word about nowadays text entry in VR. Usually it's a completely virtual keyboard, and you use your controllers that have been primarily designed for gaming, and you use those controllers to point at different keys and click, or in this example you have virtual drumsticks, and you use those drumsticks to type on the keys. The least we can say is that it's not very efficient, especially when you compare to what we've been used to since more than 100 years, which is using our hands and typing on keys with letters on top of them. So the reasoning was, why not try to bring a physical keyboard in the virtual environment? So basically we took one of our gaming keyboards and we created this little adapter that allows you to track your keyboard using this HTC Vive tracker. So this allows us to bring your keyboard in a virtual environment. And since we are using the HTC Vive, we are also using the camera that's on the headset to provide you a vision of your hands, so that you can use the keyboard in a virtual environment as hopefully as you would in real life. I said hopefully because obviously we want this to be an effective text entry method, and for some it's a new keyboard, and it's undeniably a new environment in which you are typing, and this means that you won't be able to retain 100% of your usual typing speed. Now the question becomes, how do we get new users up to speed as quickly as possible? And to do so, we performed a small experiment comparing two different methods. So we had two groups of 6 people each, and one of the group performed trained during 5 minutes using a game, and the other group trained during 5 minutes using a browsing experience. We measured their typing efficiency, so word per minute before and after the training, and we also at the end recorded their subjective impressions on the overall experience. So the first group trained using a browser, so we used a desktop mirroring application, and the goal was to mimic a typical browsing experience. So participants had to send an email in which they should have picked a YouTube video, a place on Google Maps, and an item on Amazon, along with a small justification for each of those items. Again, the goal is just to mimic something typical that you would do on the internet. The second group played a game that we developed in-house at a hackathon, actually, which basically involves typing in VR. So the game goes as follows: you have a bomb that drops in front of you, and then a word appears on the wall around you in the room, and you have to type in this word to defuse the bomb, and then the next one arrives. And if you cannot keep up with typing, well, that's the end of the game, and you blow up. So for the purpose of the experiment, we just added a feature so that people could simply hit the space key and start over, just to make sure that they could play repetitively for 5 minutes as well. And that when the 5-minute mark was reached, everyone, the browsing and the gaming groups, had to stop, and we performed a second test for word per minute. So in terms of results, the first thing that we notice, it's obvious, but it's always good to confirm this, is that there is an increase. So even 5 minutes, which is a really short time for this type of application, helps people. So there was on average a 10 words per minute gain, except for a few exceptions, of course. So that's the first good thing to note. Now, in terms of gain, when we compare the browsing and the gaming, we cannot tell whether there is a difference. It's within statistical non-significance, we could say. But when we look at the error rate, so the amount of errors and corrections the people had to do, it looks like the people who made the browsing made significantly less errors than the gaming group for the second test. Our hypothesis is that the browsing group had to type overall more words, more sentences than the people who played the game. So even though we tried to train them the same amount using 5 minutes, we suspect that the people who made the browsing actually trained a little more. Now, in terms of subjective metrics, people who played the game reported higher temporal demand here, and also a lower performance. So it sounds like the game was less appreciated. On the other hand, if you look right here, they reported that they would keep using the keyboard and the system overall. They would keep using it more than the people who made the browsing experience. And similar to the accuracy, people who played the game felt more accurate. So here it's subjective, and it's worth remembering that people were assessing the whole experience, which means that obviously the game was more stressful, because writing an email versus diffusing a bomb is not quite the same task. And so this would explain the higher temporal demand, the lower performance, and stuff like that. But anyway, the game overall, and even when discussing with the subject, seemed to leave a better impression on people. So just to conclude, we can say that typing in VR is something that can be satisfying. It doesn't have to be this clumsy experience of trying to hit the keyboard as some of us used to do on Game Boys and gaming consoles. And we can also say that a short amount of training already helps. It would be interesting to repeat the measures maybe after 10 minutes, 15 minutes, just to see the increase in performance gain. And as we said, the scenario for the typing should involve as much typing as possible, but on the other hand, also be as engaging as possible for people to stay motivated. Now, a last note about the keyboard type. As you saw, we used the mechanical keyboard, which is not the keyboard that most are used to. So on the next iteration, we are working on this guy, which is a more conventional keyboard. Just wanted to give you a taste of our work at the moment. That's it. Thank you for your attention.
Questions? Questions?
J'ai une question juste pour être sûr. Est-ce que c'est mieux de s'entraîner avec un jeu ou avec browsing? Parce que la conclusion, c'était pas clair.
C'est effectivement pas clair. En fait, de ce qu'on a vu, des données qu'on a récupérées, les personnes qui ont fait le browsing ont fait moins d'erreurs. Donc si on regarde que ce côté-là, les personnes qui ont fait le browsing étaient avantagées. Par contre, si on regarde les réponses subjectives, les gens qui ont joué au jeu ont dit qu'ils reviendraient plus volontiers refaire la même expérience ou réutiliser le même système. Donc on pourrait suspecter que sur le plus long terme, les gens qui ont joué au jeu vont avoir de meilleurs résultats.
C'est un peu overmalting, quoi. On ne devient pas mieux, mais ça dure plus longtemps.
Oui, ça dure plus longtemps, mais de nouveau, on n'a pas fait les mesures, mais on suspecte aussi que si ça dure plus longtemps, si on joue plus longtemps au jeu, on va finir par rentrer beaucoup plus de texte et du coup, on va devenir meilleur.
Thank you. We all know that keyboards are highly inefficient. We all know that they are inheritance from the mechanical typewriter. So the letters are placed on the keyboard in a highly inefficient way.
Yes.
Why didn't you try to start fresh with a really efficient keyboard? And because you're in VR, you're not linked or forced to use historical errors.
So that's correct. The main reason we wanted to bring a physical keyboard in VR is because people are used to typing on a keyboard. So it would kind of defeat the purpose if we completely change the layout, because it would mean that people would have to learn a new layout, and we didn't want any additional barriers as to how you could type in VR. And actually, if you take a look at this guy here, this is a 3D model of the keyboard. So we are not changing the layout, but we do have some augmentation. So for instance, this keyboard, you can barely see it, but it's been fitted for a certain application. So all the F keys on the top row have different icons so that you can remember quickly which is a shortcut for which function.
I know Logitech produces keyboards, but further adding to that question, the trend seems to be going towards voice recognition rather than typing. Why run this type of research?
So the first reason is that voice recognition is pretty hard to do. It's something that we felt is not ready yet, but obviously Logitech makes keyboard, mice, etc. But we are interested in the end user in the end. And I think we foresee voice and multimodal interactions as the future. Let's say this VR keyboard is a helper to get there, to have VR applications that require text entry. At the moment, VR applications are mostly game. Sometimes you have to type a couple of letters, but that's it. So we hope to help the VR ecosystem grow in the direction of maybe productivity, this kind of areas.
Okay, hi, my name is Caroline. I have been testing VR at NX in Zurich. It was an animation where you get a sense of they lure you visually to induce effects. And I tested as well at UNIL a VR system for online shopping. My question is, how long can someone be stuck with a mask with such screening? How performant is it? How tiring is it? And what's the impact on eyesight?
Mm-hmm. So it's a very good question. I'd say it depends. It's obviously the best answer. No, it depends on a lot of factors. The first one is the weight of the headset itself. So if it's a clumsy, heavy headset, your neck will get tired quickly. Sometimes those headsets also become hot, so it depends on the person as well. But let's imagine we have a lightweight and non-heating headset. I think it's fair to say that it also depends on the experience. So if you have an experience that has you moving around very quickly, some people might get sick. So for some it might be a matter of 5 minutes, 10 minutes. For others, it's maybe 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. It really depends on the application and your habit, let's say. And your last point on eyesight, actually it looks like we have something really close to the face. But since we have lenses, what our eyes are doing is actually focusing really far away. So it's, if I'm not mistaken, it's 3 to 5 meters. So it's some could say it's even better than having a computer screen right in front of you.
Okay, thank you, Sidney.
Thank you.